I'm making using an online exclusive bundle called Trucking Along. Today I'm making a slider card using an online exclusive bundle called Trucking Along. It has a punch that coordinates with it. Only just recently received it, so I haven't been able to do anything with it until now. The other stamp set I'm using is called Scenic Wonders, and I'm also using the gorgeously made dies, this one to create my hill and the label die. Now this is also available as a bundle, so if you like the stamp set you can get a saving of 10% if you purchase both the dies and the stamp set together. But today we're only going to be using the die. So this is the slider card we're making. It has a pull out tab, so if you pull this the truck will move along. That's the inside. These are the inks I'm using: Shaded Spruce, Smoky Slate and Cherry Cobbler, and Tuxedo Black Memento ink. I almost forgot, and Old Olive. So the card base has been cut at 7 inches by 8.5 inches and folded in half. So in metric that's 18 centimeters by 21.5 centimeters. For the slider mechanism it has to be at least 8 1/8 in length. Okay, you want that a bit wider, well, whatever scrap you have, but you want to use basic white thick, and then you can trim it down in a minute once you've cut your channels. So line that at 3/4 inch. This is 1 inch, so it's the next one to the left of the 1 inch mark, and it's to the right of the cutting groove. So you want to cut from 5 inches up to 1 inch here, and you want to make sure you don't overshoot it. Okay, then lift it up and then slide it along to 1 inch and cut the other parallel line and cut from 5 inches to 1 inch. Now turn it the other way round. You want to cut it at 1 3/4 inches, let's say. Okay, now this is the new Take Your Pick crafter tooltips, and the one we're going to be using is this craft knife here in the middle. So these are interchangeable. It has a rotary blade to perforate cardstock, and so it doesn't really cut right through. And then you have two tips. You can use that for piercing leaves, floral images, or whatever, a stitched effect. And it's also useful for poking the leftover die cuts in your die on the very intricate ones. So when you're putting it back, make sure they're in the same direction so that it will fit back in the box. Top, you've got 2 ends to your crafter's tool, so you want to unscrew this bit, and it's on the thicker end, and you pop that in with a cap on, of course, to protect yourself and not get cut. Put that somewhere safe so you don't lose it. And now I'm going to use it to cut the channels on my cardstock. So bring in my metal ruler and butt up the craft knife to the edge and just cut down. Gives you a nice clean cut. And you do the same on this end. Just checking to see if the recording button is on. Nothing worse than when you think it's on and it's not. safety first, recap it before you remove the tip. This is the slider, so that pulls your truck along. You need to cut a track with this slider mechanism piece, and this is what you put in between it once you've cut the track. And then this bit is the cover for the front to hide the slider. And I've die cut the top of the hill with this die here. So the first matte layer, you need two pieces, one for here and one for the inside of the card. And both these measure 3 3/8 by 8 3/8. So in metric that's 8.5 by 21 centimeters. Then you need two basic white, ordinary basic white, cut at 3 1/8 by 8 1/8, and that is to go on top of this layer here. This is the bit where you actually stamp your scene here, and this is for the inside of the card. You also need a scrap of basic white to stamp and punch your truck out of. Now, sadly, the Stamparatus has been discontinued, but when you're doing stamping like this, if you do happen to have a stamp positioning tool, this is ideal. But if you don't, then stamp your linear image first, and then what you do is, you see on the stamp here, there are sort of gaps, so you anchor the gaps so that it's on the wheel arch, and look at that line and line up that line with there, and then you'll be able to get it in line so that this bit on the side of the cab is also left blank, so that will be white. And you want to use this stamp, which looks like an eye with an eyebrow, and you want to turn it upside down and line up the little dots over the hubcaps. Try and do this without getting my head in the camera, hopefully. That was lucky. And then you just want to place the truck inside the punch and punch. Now I'm going to cut 1/4 of an inch with this leftover piece, and these are the stilts of the truck. Being 1/4 of an inch, it's the same width as the tear and tape, so you don't have to mess around with trimming it. I want to stamp the Christmas tree in Tuxedo Black Memento ink, then switch to shaded spruce and stamp it. Not happy with that. I think I'll stamp off this time because I don't like it so dark. That's better, isn't it? Now I'm going to cut it straight up like this. So there's a tab. Actually, it should be this way, shouldn't it? And then cut it so that there's an even border all round, and you angle your scissors and move the paper and not the scissors. And the reason why there is a tab there is so that you can put glue on it and put it on your car. So I've put some Tombow on the back there. Now I'm going to stick this on the truck, like so. I've got some spare cardstock here. I should punch out another truck. Why do I put stilts on it? It's to raise the truck above the track, so it will appear as though it's floating along that road. The track is actually down here, hidden behind this cover, but you'll see that all in a minute when I'm constructing it. Put that behind the wheel, make sure it's straight. And the reason I've punched another truck, all these bits might catch when you're trying to slide it along, so you want a smooth surface, and that's why I'm sandwiching another truck behind it. Make sure it's not showing in the front. Next, I'm going to work on this background piece. So I'm going to ink this up in Smoky Slate. I've put this piece next to the card I previously did, so I can gauge where I'm going to stamp that. Then I'm going to use these masks I stamped on a post-it note and cut just inside the line. That's one, and I numbered them. 2, 3. Then I'm going to stamp this one here and mask that. And stamp this one last. And I'll put these masks away because I might want to use it again. So we'll set that aside, and then now we can tackle the track. Now of course you'll need some sliders, and because I've got my truck with stilts on them to raise it above the track, I'm going to need 4 pennies, but that makes it awfully heavy to post. So I've used these alternatives instead. There are actually plastic gliders for slider carts. They come with 40 in a pack, and 20 are the straight gliders, and 20 are round. So I bought 2 packs, and it also has stickers to go with it as well. And you can see that's a straight glider, okay, so it doesn't spin. And they also have stickers that go with it, and these are the round ones. I'll just take it out to show you. So it's got a little hole in it, and these are for the round spinners so that it will go round and round, but this one will just go straight. So you want to make sure they are straight. So this is the front, and you want to flip it over to the back and get your mechanism. The 3/4 inch by 8 1/8, that's 2 centimeters by 20.5 centimeters, and place it on here. Okay, hold the slider mechanism up to the light so you can see that it is exactly, the track is exactly in the middle. Keep that in situ and draw a line on either side. Okay, and that's where you put your foam adhesive strip. So now you want to take those slider mechanisms that I told you about and attach it to, this should be upside down, alright? That should fit inside, and it should slide freely, and that's why you want to attach this to the slider mechanism. Alright, so bring in the foam adhesive strip, and you want to cut a piece for the end so that your slider mechanism doesn't pop out, and you want to put the foam adhesive strip slightly above that line, can move freely. So want to run the dust buddy over it to make sure that it's not sticking anywhere. I think that's a bit closer. Let's pop that up a little bit so you can just see the line, and snip that bit off, and do the same here, just underneath the line. Then pop tear and tape on the back of the spinners. And take that off. Make sure that's right at the back, and place your slider mechanism on top. Okay. So that it runs freely. And dust buddy on the inside so nothing's sticking. You just want to make sure that that is narrower than this piece here, because you're going to have to draw a line. So I know where to do my, cut my die. Okay. Bring in the die. You want to cut above the line, let's say. Alright. So I'll have to keep adjusting it as I go along. So this is the boho version of the mini die cut machine, and it's available online while stocks last. I'm going to stagger my plates. The bottom plate is behind the chamfered edge, and then you place this on top so that it's in line with your white base plate, and then you can crank it through. Next I'm going to cut this bit here. Just snip that off, save the trouble. Before I cover this up, I'm going to stamp some grass. Now bring in my original card. Now as you can see when I pull that out, that I've split the sentiment here, wishing you a festive Christmas. It was originally one stamp, but I've done some surgery on it and cut it into two. Line the word up on the grid line so I know it's straight, and then mount it on the block. And the beauty of photopolymer stamps is that if you want them to join up again, you can just simply, like a jigsaw puzzle, just mount it up again and you can stamp it together. But for the moment I'm going to do it separately. Now before I put the truck on, this mechanism was shooting off, wasn't it? Nothing was stopping it. But now that I've attached the truck to it, it will not come off, because this is stuck to the slider mechanism on the reverse side. So pull it out all the way, because I want to stamp my sentiment. Pop that on a mat, and stamp that in cherry cobbler, the wishing you portion, and I want to stamp that in the middle. Oh no, not to worry, I'll just put another piece in. So I've cut another 3/4 inch by 8 1/8 inch strip, and you put tear and tape on the back of the wheels of the gliders. I keep calling them wheels, but they're not, they're gliders. And just put that in the channel. Make sure it's free from the sides. Press it down and pull it out. And then this time I'll make sure that the bottom of my stamp is clean so it doesn't happen again. Pop that on to lift it up. That's better. Now you want to attach this to the front of your card. So I think it might be better if I did it from this side. Make sure that the seam is upside down as well, and marry that up with the edge of the card. Whoops. Yes, it's pulling freely. Now we want to put foam tape on the bottom here. Only on the bottom 3 sides, okay? You don't want it up here, otherwise it will stop your trap from running freely. So you might want a bit here to keep the cardstock up, and a bit here. Then you can pop, just use a tiny bit here. So long as it's free from the actual end of the stopper. So remove all that tape. Then pop this on top and make sure it all marries up with the sides and the bottom. Okay, now that's all covered up. Then you can glue this piece onto the card front. And on a scrap of basic white I can stamp Festive Christmas. Die cut that off camera and I'll be back. So there's my die cut label. Take off the dimensionals on the back. This is really quite a bulky card. Have that in line, and there you go. So there's your hidden push-pull slider card. Now let's do the inside. I'll glue that in first. I'm going to use the retired Stamparatus because it just makes my life easier. You can use an ordinary block. And stamp the Christmas tree the traditional way. I'm going to stamp off and then stamp on. Stamp the tires. Again, line it up with the hole, the 2 circles here. Then I'm going to ground it with this stamp here. Glue this to the matte layer inside the card. So there are two versions of this. You can use an embossing folder and emboss this bit here. I made a mistake by embossing one half and then the other half. I should have done it in the middle so that you don't get that line in the centre. And that was using the Twisted Rope 3D embossing folder. Now before I go, I thought I'd show you some alternatives. I used the Stamparatus to create a mirror image of the truck, so it's actually pointing the other way. This hasn't got a push-pull tab, it just goes across. I used the Stylish Shapes dies to cut this tag. Then there was this Sending You Sunny Thoughts, so I used a combination of the Rays of Light and a different image of the Scenic Wonders. I used this one, and because these are photopolymer stamps, you can actually bend the stamp to fit the arc. So I cut that freehand. This goes like that, and that side of the truck here. And I also used the largest of the deckled rectangles to cut the base and all the layers and the cover as well, so that they would all match. So that's my hidden push-pull slider card with Trucking Along. I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. Pop back for more inspiration next time. If you like this video, then do give me a thumbs up and share if you can. I'd be ever so grateful. Thanks for watching. Bye.